Hi, Martin. Good afternoon.
Great to be here. How are you?
I'm okay. Nice to have you here.
No, it's a pleasure.
You've been doing a very great job.
Thank you.
Connecting people from Ireland, from Belfast, we've gone for different programs recently.
Yes.
It's a lot of work you've been doing. Can you tell us a little bit of what you do?
Well, I suppose I'm the founder of the Growth Network. I set the Growth Network up as I felt that there was a lack of opportunity for entrepreneurs, self-employed people, small business owners that really needed support now more than ever, particularly when we came out of the pandemic. I wasn't seeing a whole lot of support, and I felt that I had a real longing myself to get back into a room. I'm very much, as I'm sure you can appreciate, I'm very much a communicator, but I am a socialize. I
True.
like the socialization angle of it. I felt a disconnect using technology and being online all the time, and I felt that there was a need to get small businesses back into the room to develop relationships with one another, to build rapport with each other, to communicate that kind of thing. And I think that that's where the magic happens.
And that's a great job you're doing. You
Thank you.
connect a lot of business together.
Yes.
I see that. And recently, I realized you received an award. What award was that?
I've been shortlisted.
Oh, okay.
I'm a finalist in an award. It's the Great British Entrepreneurship Awards for Startup of the Year. I'm very humbled to receive that kind of recognition. I think it's a nice thing. It's nice to get recognized when there is hard work done.
Yeah.
A lot of kind of sleepless nights, a lot of kind of worries about the future. I try to, I try my best to ground myself in the moment, in the present, and that's. I would be involved in other activities like I have an interest in yoga and meditation. I try not to think too far ahead, but sometimes the worries as small business owners of
Yeah.
life can get in the way of that as well.
That's interesting. The fact that you've been shortlisted, that reminds me a statement from El Nightingale, which when he says that, I know you know him, right? El
Yes,
Nightingale, yeah.
yes,
He said that success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. The fact that you've been shortlisted, for some of us, we believe that you deserve it. If you don't, you won't be shortlisted. So we believe you've gotten it already. That's how we feel.
yeah, yeah. I think look, I think it's a nice thing. It's a nice thing to have. It'll be maybe a good opportunity to meet other people. We have another person in the Growth Network community that's also shortlisted, which shows the strength of the community and the people that we have around us as well.
I realized something from your statement. You're not taking the credit all to yourself.
No. Well, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the community around me. The Growth Network, people sometimes refer to the Growth Network as your network, as Martin's network. It's not. It's more the collective community. That's what makes up the Growth Network. The reason it is a success is less. Yes, I'm aware of my role and the importance of my role as the founder, of kind of like the leader. But it's more, I was talking to somebody last night about this, it's more ceremonial. It's more like the tribal sort of leader that brings the community together, but the community sort of thrives by itself, if you like. That makes sense?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
If, in fact, I'm seeing a lot of things from what you're saying. I'm going to say I encourage empathy. I speak a lot about empathy. And from your statement, I've noticed empathy in it. That means that empathy must have helped you. How have you used empathy in your growth?
Well, for me, it's less about me and more about how I can help the other person. But it's kind of it's conscious as well because I think sometimes I'm aware that I don't want to. I don't like to promote too much about how I'm helping people, because I think a lot of times people do that. It's less about the person that they're helping and more about them. They're only talking about it for their own ego. I recommend we talk about different quotes there, but I do a lot of reading, and I'm very much Anthony DeMello. Awareness is a book that certainly I'd recommend to all the people that are interested in this sort of self-development, personal development journey. For me, empathy and being empathetic towards other people, um, I think it's important. It's important to actually care, but also taking an interest. And I do have an interest in people. I mean, there is a bit of selfishness in it, and the selfishness in it is because I love a good story, and I love hearing other people share their story with me, because we learn from each other. So there
True.
is a little bit of reward in it as well.
True.
So
It's a very good thing to know. The fact that you try to use empathy in every aspect of your growth.
yes.
So how do you see the growth network? How can you say empathy has helped you from when you looking back at when you started and where you are now?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that kind of like the importance of empathy and being like empathetic towards other people as well. And I think that that really is the kind of in the DNA of the growth network, that we actually care. But I often talk about my values, and a lot of people will talk about their values like trust, transparency, honesty. Well, I am of the opinion, show me your values. Just don't talk to me about your values, or just don't post about them on social media. Show me your values. Your
Yeah.
values are very much in the doing. And for those, for me, empathy is not just another buzzword. It's not just something that we write on our social media. It is something that I believe in. It's taking a genuine interest in people, and taking a real sort of I use, I suppose, that empathy to enable others, to help them achieve their goals as well.
Yeah.
Kind of like, and I suppose it's about, it's sometimes, and this is something that's a lesson every day. Sometimes it's knowing when to shut up as well. It's knowing when to say less. What I'm trying to say is, I might ask you a question like,
Yeah.
"How are you today?" And you might say, "I'm good, Martin. I'm very, very good." So tell us, how's the week gone for you? It's asking those coach-like questions, but giving you the space to answer as well.
Yeah.
I think sometimes as people, we can ask a question that we want to answer ourselves.
Yeah.
We'll ask somebody a question, but it's only because we want to answer it ourselves. And I try not to do that. I try to ask the question and give the person the space to answer that.
And that's true. That's what coaching is about, because with
Yeah,
coaching, you don't say, you use question to
yes,
draw out what they have on their mind. And I realized something, being with you in the same room, I've noticed something which you do a lot of times. When you sense some things happening that are necessary, your approach is always different to diffuse the tension. I've seen you done it so many times. What can you say about that?
it's interesting. I've been thinking about this as well. I've always sort of like, I suppose it's learned behavior. I've been in sort of like previous sort of jobs or previous roles where I have been in situations where there has been a lot of tension. There has been a lot of kind of like there has been some sort of threat, if you like, and if I overreact in that situation, it'll be 100 times worse. I think there's certain, I think there's certain aspects to our own sort of life and reality that we can we can make a situation 1,000 times worse by thinking the worst or thinking really bad or thinking, oh, this is going to go all wrong, that kind of thing. I've always, as I say, I go back to that learned behavior of what I've done in the past, of kind of like remaining calm. I've done a lot of work with young people that were involved in gangs and sort of like, I was on a task force where we were kind of like, I was working with young people that were involved in significant criminality, antisocial behaviour. There was a lot of conflict between different groups and that. My job was to kind of like go in there and sort of like get them involved in like positive activities and sort of like mediate between different groups and that. And I loved that experience, but I also learned from that experience to remain calm under pressure. And I suppose these are techniques and different things that I'll bring into my own work, sort of into the growth network, into that community, that kind of thing. But sometimes now I've been in a couple of it's just I've been in a couple of hurry sort of situations, as anyone does really at times, you know what I mean? But I've remained so calm, and I think, well, I'm here to tell the story, I suppose.
No, thank you so much. That's excellent, because I've seen you done that like firsthand.
Yes.
You don't really have to even say it. People, I think others could also say it. The way you diffuse the tension and everybody seems nothing has happened. That's a very good skill.
Well, I think that people also kind of like, as I say, it goes back to what I said about there is a degree in the sense that we create our own reality or we create our own environment around us, that kind of thing, and that what you think about and what you constantly live in, like if you're kind of like, I think you attract into your life the kind of what your thoughts, your thoughts manifest themselves.
True.
And what I mean by that is, I have a friend, he's a great person, believe it or not, but he loves watching the boxing, he loves watching the UFC, he loves watching the fighting, and anything to do with the kind of that sort of reality. And he gets into a lot of fights, and he gets into a lot of confrontations and that kind of thing, because he's in that sort of, I'm not saying that I think that whereas myself, I'm more into music, I'm more into art, I'm kind of into kind of like meeting people, socializing with people, good people. But being aware of that as well, having a conscious use of self is very, very important. I think, look, we've all been in situations where people, for whatever reason, have got something going on that maybe we don't perceive, and we kind of try and be friendly towards them, and they ain't having it. You just gotta let them, give them the space.
True.
Give them the space and avoid them if you can.
That's a lesson which you're trying to show us here. It shows that when you watch certain things, it reflects in your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. It reflects what we read, what we kind of like watch on TV, and that's why I think there's a lot of social media has its perks, has its benefits, but there's the whole doom scrolling that people are on and they're looking at stuff, and it creates unhealthy thought patterns. It creates an unhealthy way of being, and I think these things ultimately aren't good for us. You know what I mean? And that's why I think it's one of the things that we try to do with the Growth Network is we try to get people to put the phones away and to talk to each other, to communicate, to it may be outside of the normal social environment. We might go into the mountains as we do. We might go on a walk together. Nature can be a great healer. It can also be a great listener. And I spend a lot of time in nature myself, in the mountains. I do a lot of fishing. I have interest in the outdoors and that. I think that when you take people into that environment, that wilderness therapy, I love all that sort of stuff. It's
True. You know what? We've learned a lot from you, and I believe that people that are going to watch this are also going to learn a lot from you. How you've been able to use empathy, and the business is driving.
Yeah, the businesses are thriving, but it's important that you kind of like, what I say to people is that it's about making the effort. It's about showing up consistently.
Yeah.
It's about having the conversation. And people say to me, like on my aspects as of being a business coach, people will say to me, look, business is drying up. Business isn't what it is. And the question that I often come back to is how many people have you spoke to about your business, about your struggles, about your challenges, about your
Yeah.
have you don't be afraid, don't shy away from vulnerability, embrace it. Being able to say to somebody, look, I'm struggling right now. I'm not bringing in the business right now. And I think in the growth network, when you have that safe environment, when you have that community around you,
Yeah.
you're going to say, Chuck Omega, how can I help you? Is there someone that I can introduce you to?
Yeah.
But if you don't have that conversation,
Now we know.
people aren't psychic.
True.
Well, not everyone's psychic.
True.
Yeah.
No, it's excellent. You know what? I've seen that you've always done that. It's not because you say it to people, but it's what you do. It's a life you live.
It's the life you live.
Yeah, and it shows that it has attracted the same set of people in the growth network.
Yes.
When you look at the members of the growth network, they are people you can rely on and do
Yes.
business with them.
Yes.
You know.
Well, I think, it's interesting as well. Money and business follows trust. Follows trust. And this goes back to the empathy. Trust follows caring, genuinely caring for people, and genuinely taking an interest in the person, because I've said it so many times. Why I think the growth networks is because there's people in the room who care about other people.
True. Yeah.
We have an interest in other people, but we also care. You get to know the person, and you don't always sell the business. You always sell the person as well.
Yeah.
Like if I knew somebody who was a great sort of marketer, for instance, but they were soulless and they weren't a nice person, well, I'm not going to recommend them. Can they deliver results for you? Yeah, but they're hard to work with. It ain't going to go very far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's getting to know the person. And I suppose that's why a lot of our meetings tend to be in the evenings. And people will say to me, oh, but the evenings aren't good for me. So we've introduced morning meetups at a more reasonable time, like in around 9:30, 10 o'clock. I think that's a better time. I think the challenge with earlier meetings is that people are often in a rush. So if you're in that meeting and you have 40 plus people in that room and people are introducing themselves, by the time you get to the 20th person that half the room's going to be leaving, because they have to go for their 9 o'clock, and you're gonna take away from their 9 o'clock meeting.
Yeah.
And they'll say to you, "Listen, we'll catch up again. We'll catch up again." But they haven't truly been in the presence. They haven't been truly in the moment. They've been thinking about their 9 o'clock the whole way through that meeting. That when they do see you again, they go, "Well, how's the plumbing business going?" You go, "I'm not a plumber." Because they haven't gotten to know you as a person.
True.
And the other thing that we've talked about before that I pride myself on is, and I suppose if you ever read How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie, it's a classic, but there's so many learnings in this kind of stuff, is taking the interest in people by getting to know them by their first name. And that's why I said introducing, this is Chuck Omega, getting to know you by your first name. And I pride myself on knowing people by their first name.
Yeah.
That's why, as a connector, as a matchmaker, as an introducer, I can recall people because I've taken the time to get to know them.
Yeah.
But also, I've taken the time to know them by their first name as well.
Excellent. And that's what I've noticed. You've made mention of two things I find interesting right now. You spoke about listening to people. They told you about the time. Maybe you try to switch the time from evening, sometimes in the morning, which is, to me, and maybe realistically, one of the skill to be empathetic, to learn, is listening skill. You need to be an active listener. Listen to people. And how have you used that? From what you've said, with the example you did, how have you used your listening skill, to grow the network?
Well, like I've said, it's truly listening to people. Active listening is all about truly listening to people. It's not just it's tapping into that intuition as well, and trying to listen to people. And sometimes if my intuition is telling me something, I might ask a coach-like question. I might say, "My intuition is telling me something. Is telling
Yeah.
me something that you would like to get off your chest, and that if they trust me enough, and we've created that safe environment, which we have. And this is the thing that happens. I encourage people to have those regular one-to-ones. You need to be having regular one-to-ones with each other. For me, sometimes our churn rate, and what I mean in the growth network, is quite low, I'm proud to say. But when members have maybe left for whatever reason, I always think that it's a communication. It's all about there has been some sort of maybe breakdown in communication. There hasn't been. I haven't sort of like delivered my message maybe the way it's been intended. So I reflect on that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I reflect on, I want to know what's working, what's not working, that kind of thing. I'm very, I, I know what it's like in a way to be excluded. I know what it's like to be left out. I know what it's like to be disenfranchised. I've experienced that myself, and I still, part of the success maybe of the growth network here in my hometown is that I felt excluded. I felt disenfranchised. I didn't feel like I knew I could deliver, um, like I could deliver like sort of positive outcomes for a lot of businesses, for a lot of people, and I wasn't getting those opportunities for whatever reason. And I thought, you know what, the only way that I can go about this is start my own sort of. And I suppose we started off with very humbly, but I met other people that were also disenfranchised or disillusioned or left out. I thought, you know what, we can actually come together and we can create opportunities for ourselves. We can create business for ourselves. And that's why ultimately why it works. You know what I mean? We don't do clicks. We don't do you not know who I am? All that nonsense. You know, I have no interest in that. I think everyone that walks through the door has something to offer. They have value. And if they're willing to collaborate, because collaboration is key. And I talked a lot about reading and stuff. I heard Professor Crystal Miller, who from the University of Ulster, she'd be a great person for your sort of like podcast
Yeah.
here. But I heard her speak, and she talked a lot about collaborative advantage and communities and ecosystems collaborating. And we were already doing it at the Growth Network, but when I heard that term, collaborative advantage, I thought that's exactly what I'm trying to do with the Growth Network. Kind of like it's trying to get that community that and forget about the whole competitive advantage and trying to dog eat dog. I have no interest in any of that.
Yeah.
I want to collaborate, and that's really what we're trying to do.
You know what? Everything you've said so far is exactly what I've seen. There is nothing you've said that I've not seen firsthand that you do.
Well, as I say, the values are in the doing.
Yeah.
Talk is cheap.
Yeah.
Show me your actions.
Yeah.
Action, kind of like honesty. Honesty is important in business. Trust is important in business, but it starts at home. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be trust, yourself that you can do things. And for a
True.
long time, I did struggle there. I wasn't fully honest with myself. I was maybe doing maybe good work and great work in the community, but if you serve everyone,
Yeah.
if you serve everyone, um, you're not necessarily always serving yourself. And if you don't look after yourself, you're going to be useless.
True.
So it's important. It's important to have that
True.
as well.
Yeah, and you look after yourself. I see that a lot recently. You go to the gym,
Yes.
mindfulness. You do a lot of exercise, yoga, and stuff. You made mention of it earlier too. So, what advice are you going to give to people that are trying to start? You actually building an empire. You don't know that. I think it's an empire of businesses because you are bringing great minds set together, and you don't know what's going to turn out of this. I foresee something that among the growth network, a time is coming when still from the members, they're going to build an empire of business. Remember, everything still comes from the growth network. The credit goes there. We don't know how far it's going to go, but I believe there are a lot of things that is going to happen to it. So, what advice are you going to give to new businesses, people that are coming up trying to start a business? And what advice are you going to give them? And how do you think empathy can also help them to drive in their business?
Well, it's interesting what you say about empire. I would very much keep my feet on the ground and stay humble as well. That what I would say to businesses that are maybe interested in the growth network is know that you'll be listened to first and foremost. Know that you'll be listened to. Know that you'll be included. We're not here to fill people into a room. Um, kind of a lot of our speakers that speak at our events are sharing real kind of like experiences, skills, lessons, if you like. It's not an advertising platform for them. I have no interest in that. I have no interest in that whatsoever. And it's all about collaboration. It's all about kind of like working together is so important. It's a bit like farming. It's like if you think of like hunting or farming in like thousands of years ago, the success of the farming was a collective effort.
Yeah,
It was a communal effort, and that's really kind of like what we're trying to do with the growth network. And that's my role. I see my role not as the king of the empire or the
yeah,
emperor. My role is more of a shepherd. Yeah. My role is kind of like if I can bring good people into a room, that's where the magic happens. It's less about me.
yeah,
It's less about me and more about the people like yourself that come into the room and giving people the opportunity to share their story and be listened to. Be listened to. So what I would say, my advice to anyone that's starting out is, well, I would say get yourself a coach because a coach is a wonderful thing.
true.
Work with somebody like yourself that'll give them the accountability, that'll give them the sort of like confidence in themselves. The coaching's all about asking the right questions. So I would say to small businesses, and it's not advice. I don't give advice to anyone really. I try to maybe help people make informed choices or informed decisions. But what I would say is that don't be afraid to ask the question. Don't be afraid to ask the right questions. If you feel that you're in like a business organization, you might be in a networking group, or you might be in a chamber of commerce. I mean, these are all wonderful things, and they're all great for businesses. But if you feel that you've been left out, or you feel that you've been excluded or disenfranchised, don't be afraid to ask the question about how you can improve your
Yeah,
situation. I think sometimes people are too afraid to speak out, to stand up for themselves. And unfortunately, there's people out there who will take advantage of them and then will try and straight over them. So don't be afraid to ask the question and stand up for yourself.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Because there is a world of opportunity out there. There is a world of opportunity out there. But I think that it's less to do with kind of like competition or competitors and more of a collaboration, and that's what the growth network's about.
yeah,
I don't want people in the group that are takers. I've known takers, take. Well, this ain't the group for you, and I'll put people out of the group. And I've put people out of the group, and I've said, look, this is not the community for you. You're all out for yourself. if you're all out for yourself and you're not willing to work with the person or work with people,
Yeah.
as I say, people often talk about kind of like wanting to grow a successful business, but particularly people in professional services. Here's a great example. They want to grow their business. They want to build an empire,
Yeah.
but they want to charge ridiculous prices. As I say, money follows trust.
Yeah.
If you don't have trust, you ain't gonna make any money.
True.
It ain't gonna happen.
True.
Your business is not gonna be a success. And trust follows cure. If you don't have a cure or genuine cureness, then it's going to be very, very difficult. I know somebody recently, to give a prime example, and they were looking to charge high-end rates, and rightfully so. I'll often say that it's important that you charge your worth, you charge your value, and I encourage our members all to do that. But you need to build your credibility.
Yeah.
And your credibility only comes about through your testimonials, through your recommendations. Yeah? Without that, it's very hard for people to qualify whether you deserve the rate that you're charging. Qualifications are one thing, but you also need the testimonials. You also need to back it up with results. And that's something that is important. If you are a new business and you're starting out, build your credibility, build your visibility by showing up to the growth network, showing up to your chamber of commerce events, showing up to different organizations that you're involved in. They're all very important. You need to be seen,
Yeah.
but you also need that credibility. And once you have the two of them together, that leads to profitability or opportunity in a relationship. You can take it to the next stage.
Martin, thank you so much for having you.
No, thank you.
And you've given us great advice, especially to people that are trying to start a business. This is a good advice for you guys, but we're also going to give a shout out to Nuri Massage. Guys, it's a place to come for your massage.
A member of the Growth Network, I'm delighted to say as well.
Yeah.
Kieran McLaughlin that runs it's been a great advocate and supporter of what we're doing here. So, as I say, it's a great location and it's right in the centre of town.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Martin. Thank you for coming.
Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.